Hi, Butch Peel with Jersey Jack Pinball again. In this video, we're going to tour the underside of the Hobbit playfield. I've got a game here with the Hobbit playfield pulled up against the back box, and on the side over here, I've got a rotisserie device set up with a Hobbit, fully populated Hobbit playfield that we can reference back and forth. And remember, everything in these videos are with the player's perspective in mind. So this is the bottom of the playfield and the top of the playfield. Kind of messes it up when we tip it up like that. So let's take a look under the playfield. First that pops out of you here is all the wiring. Boy, that's a lot of wiring, a lot of big mechanisms here, a lot of things going on under this playfield. As you notice, the first thing, of course, that comes to your eye is the lighting. You got a color lights in the center of the playfield, and you got white lights going around the outside. The white lights are the general illumination lights, and on Hobbit, that's a separate system. So those are run off of a different controller and voltage. So general illumination have white LEDs that do not change color. All of the inserts on the center have RGB LEDs that we can make any color we like. So when we look on the upper portion of the playfield to show what that looks like, down here at the bottom, here are 3 acrylic rods that go up through the playfield. They have a single white LED behind them that we can control the intensity on. And so we can turn those up and down, make them blink on and off, do all those sorts of things, but they don't change color. And so under all the plastics on the playfield are those general illumination bulbs. In the center of the playfield, all of the inserts, those are going to be RGB LEDs. So every one of these is on a big board here. If I look back onto the main playfield here, this board here has this giant printed circuit board, has all of these inserts on it. So every one of those has an RGB LED associated with it, so we can keep track of the locks and all those types of things, change color. So all the color in the center of the playfield, white around the edges, and that gives the whole playfield a lot brighter look. So next thing we see on here is a lot of coils. There's a whole lot of coils, more coils even than on the Wizard of Oz used in the Hobbit, because we've got to set drop targets and knock drop targets down. Each one of those drop targets is going to take 2 coils now. So the coils are these big drum-looking things here under the playfield. Every one of these is going to kick and do something on top of the playfield, make the ball move really fast. They're very powerful. They're going to do some really cool things with the ball on the playfield surface. Some of them are going to push things up out of the surface. Some of them are going to reset drop targets. Some of them are going to kick flippers. So this motion right here under the playfield, kicking this coil, is going to cause this motion. So each one of these drop targets, there's 3 here, there's 3 here, there's 5 here. Go back to the main playfield over here, there's 3 on this side, there's 3 on this side, and there's 5 across the middle up here. So those 11 drop targets take 22 coils to control. So every one of those drop targets has to have a single coil to kick it up and a single coil to knock it back down again, so that we can individually control those and kick them up and down and walk them around the playfield and reset them like you're shuffling cards, just real fast motion. Very cool feature. Again, then we patented that. It's a great feature in this game. And I love drop targets personally, so I'm all for those. So kind of a special sort of coil is a magnet. We have 2 of those in the Hobbit game. They're up here at the very top. They're mounted to the same bracket, and they actually have a big screw on the end of them because the pole in that magnet goes up through the playfield surface. So that magnet can grab the ball when it comes around and drop it into either a Hobbit hole on this side or drop it into the pop bumpers on this side. So what that looks like over here on this playfield, you have the magnet here, way up at the top here, that drops the ball, grabs it on an orbit shot, drops it into the pop bumpers, and then one through here that grabs it when it comes by here and drops it into this Hobbit hole down here so that it can come up one of the vertical up kickers. So motors in this game. There's one big motor to talk about. That's the one for Smaug. So this small little square motor here is all you see of Smaug underneath the playfield. So what do you see above the playfield? This giant beast that spins around and talks to you and all this thing. He's virtually all above the playfield. The only thing you see here is the bottom of his motor sticking out from underneath the playfield. 3 screws right there. He comes completely out the top of the playfield. So next up is switches. If you look through this mass of wiring and mechanical mayhem here, you can see a switch here every once in a while. Most of them around the edges. If you look at these switches here on the edge, when a ball rolls over these, they're a micro switch. They stick up through a slot in the playfield surface. When the ball rolls over that, it depresses that and makes the micro switch click. And that's all that it takes to register a switch. Those on the playfield look like these 2 little rings sticking up through these slots right here. All the ball does, roll over one of those, and it knows it made one of those switches. Another type of switch under the playfield are leaf switches. A good example of those on the Hobbit are these 4 rollovers here in the center. Those are the rollover buttons in the center for lock. And that's what you see above the playfield are these 4 rollover buttons. And they're clear, so they have an RGB LED behind them, and we can light them in whatever color we want to. So all you see are those buttons sticking up over the playfield, very much like the Wizard of Oz with the characters and the Toto in the outline. Same sort of feature there. But now what happens, the ball rolls over that, and it makes the metal contacts of the switch come together and makes a contact. So another leaf type of switch would be our slingshots. They're up here alongside the slingshot coil. They show really well over here. You got these 2 switches, one bottom, one top, that come together when the ball hits the sling, forces them together, and tells the slingshot to kick the ball away from there. So the last type of switch underneath the playfield are optos. There's a lot of optos in the Hobbit game because every single one of these drop targets has its own opto associated with it. An opto is an infrared optical switch. Has a transmitter on one side, a receiver on the other side. Anything that breaks that beam in between there makes the switch. So in the case of an opto on these drop targets, we use a U-shaped opto. So the transmitter and receiver are here and opposite one another. We have a fin on the back of the drop target. When the drop target raises up, it breaks that beam and tells the game that the drop target is in the up position. When it falls, it knows the beam is open and it knows the drop target has been knocked down. A great example of optos in the Hobbit is the ramps. The steel ramps have holes cut in them on either side, and they have a pair of optos, a transmitter, a receiver. So you have an optical infrared switch here. The transmitter and receiver going back and forth. When the ball goes in between, it knows that that beam has been broken and can tell you that the ball went up this side of the ramp. And there's also a set back here for making it all the way around that ramp. Same thing on this side. So there's optos all over on this playfield surface also. So we're intentionally staying at a very high level on this overview. I want to tell you in great detail about all the coils in the game, how they all work, how the switches and everything is wired together, all the RGB LEDs and the GI system. We're not going to go too far into that in these videos. We're going to do that in videos down the road and show you some more in-depth information about this and let you be able to see when problems are coming, see when you have a problem, how to fix it, how to get it working again, and keep your game running tip-top shape. Speaking of a game running in tip-top shape, get out there and play it. Challenge somebody to a game of pinball.